Yes, you absolutely should paint those floors. Life is just too short to live in a home that doesn't make you happy. So if something in your home is making you unhappy, it's time to change it. And if it happens to be your floors, whether they're tile, linoleum, or any other type of floor other than carpet, it's time to paint them. You don't have to deal with the chaos of ripping out the floors, all the dust, all the expense. You can renovate your floors for less than $100, and it's going to be quick and seamless. I'm going to show you how to paint your floors, and I'm also going to show you 5 tips to make it that seamless process so that you can avoid making mistakes. You guys, look at these floors. They were outdated, they were depressing, they were yellow. Not even Moon was a fan of these floors. She's 1 year old, and that's Merlin, he's 2. They spend a lot of time in this room because their cat box and their food is in here. Of course, I would have loved to tile this floor, but ripping out the linoleum and leveling the floor, no one has time for that. So here we are. I even thought about putting in new linoleum, but honestly, there was not one good replacement option. Don't waste your time, they don't exist. When my husband mentioned painting our floors, I had this terrible vision of just like chipping paint. I don't know why, but I just didn't see it working out. And it turns out that my vision of what it was gonna be is so wrong, and I'm glad I gave it the chance because our floors are super durable, they look great, they're not chipping, and I think as long as you do this process the correct way, you won't run into those issues. The paint we went with is Rust-Oleum's Home Floor Coating. It can be used for tile, vinyl, wood, and more. In our case, linoleum. From my research of many floor paints, this is the floor paint to use. You can find it at Home Depot, and it comes in a good range of colors. You can buy it in a 2-step system which comes with 2 paint cans, one which is the color you chose for your floors, that solid color, and the other which is your top clear protective coat. Rust-Oleum offers 32 different colors to choose from. You're bound to find one you like. We chose Kona for our dark color and Ultra White for our light color. But before even choosing colors for the floor, we actually chose a color palette for the room, which is something I highly recommend doing. I'll get into more detail of how to do this in my next video, so stay tuned for Laundry Room Makeover Part 2. You will need cleaning supplies for this floor renovation. Rust-Oleum actually includes this heavy-duty cleaner as part of their kit. You will also need a vacuum, a mop, and a lint roller. As far as painting supplies, you will need painter's tape, a paint tray, a large roller, a small roller, a medium flat edge paintbrush, and a small paintbrush for detailing. All of which is linked below, but you can also find these items at Home Depot and on Amazon. The first step in this process, although not the most fun, is the most important, and that is doing a deep clean of your room that you're painting. When it comes to painting, dust is not your friend. It will get stuck in the paint and it will cause you a very big headache. So first we vacuumed and then we mopped. My husband removed these doors because they were getting in our way of cleaning and painting properly, so I recommend also making sure that your space is clear. Once the laundry room was clean, we taped over the baseboards. I know this is a tedious task, but honestly worth the time to do because having the baseboards taped allowed us to paint a lot faster without worrying about getting paint on the wood. I've seen people paint without taping, and more power to those people. I envy them, but with how many coats of paint we did, this definitely saved us time. After we taped the baseboards, we vacuumed quickly once again to remove any dust or hair. Do yourself a favor, don't skip this step. You will be surprised how much dust and hair shows up in that short period of time. Despite your best efforts, dust and hair will show up, like that ex that won't leave you alone. And so keeping that lint roller with you and rolling out the floor right before you paint will save you from having to pull loose hairs out of your painted floors. Moon, are you working hard? You working hard, you little princess? Yes. After all that prep, it's finally time to start painting and apply the base coat. We used ultra white as our second color for our checkerboard floors. If you choose to do more than one color as well, make sure you're applying the lighter color first. We started by painting the edges of our room with the flat brush and then followed with the roller brush. Not to state the obvious, but work your way from the back to the front so you don't end up getting stuck. We painted the entire floor with ultra white and then we waited 6 hours to let the paint dry. According to the instructions, the first coat requires 6 hours, but the following coats only require a few hours. Here are the floors the following day. You can see the paint is still a bit translucent. It definitely needs another coat. We applied another coat and this is what it looked like after that second coat. Voila. It looks pretty good, but it was still translucent, so we ended up opting for a third coat just to make sure the paint was solid. At this point, I was so sick with COVID, I was overpainting, but I kept going. You can see in these last few clips how the third coat really made the floor look so much better. I highly recommend that third coat, and it honestly didn't take long at all. After that third coat of paint, we waited 24 hours before taping out our checkerboard pattern. We waited this long just to be sure the paint was dry and avoid pulling up any fresh paint. Since our linoleum floors were checkerboard already, we used the existing pattern but combined 9 squares into 1 to make the checkerboard squares larger. We were pretty meticulous about this, so it took some time. At first we were measuring out the pieces, but then we realized it was just easier to eye it and overlap pieces to get it just right. It's important that as you lay down the tape, you press the tape out with your hand along the edges to avoid any air bubbles that will allow paint to seep under the tape. For the purpose of painting, we marked which squares we wanted to paint with a piece of tape. But in hindsight, I recommend marking the squares you aren't going to paint so that you don't have to take the pieces of tape off once you start painting your dark squares. Whether you use tape or another method, marking the squares you don't want to paint will prevent you from accidentally painting them. Now the fun part, painting the dark squares. I started by using the flat brush to go around the edges and then hit the square with a small roller, but after a few rows I was feeling lazy and just used the roller unless I had to use the flat brush for corners and edges. There I am again with the lint roller. Don't forget to do this. After the first coat, we waited 24 hours before applying the next coat, but honestly it dried pretty quick and you would be fine to paint your second coat a few hours later. We did 3 coats, again to ensure a solid look. I also felt that the more coats we did, the more I loved the color and it reflected that dark Kona color that we envisioned. So I highly recommend not skipping that third coat, as tempting as it may be. Does this look good or does it look good? Removing the tape was a good, fun activity indeed. It takes time, it takes patience, but eventually you get a hang of it. to avoid ripping the tape, I suggest slowly removing it and loosening it from top to bottom before pulling it off. I'll show you here. After removing the tape, inevitably there are going to be a few spots where your paint needs to be touched up. Don't worry, this was super easy. I just used a very small flat edge brush and lightly touched up any area that was noticeable to me. I was not aiming for perfection here, and I really only touched up any areas that I could spot from a few feet away. The top coat was quick and easy. We applied 2 layers of this clear sealant using the roller and flat edge brush. For any areas where the tape is especially stubborn to remove, use a razor blade to cut along the seam. Look at these floors!
What do you think, Merlin? What do you think? Do you like your new floors? Do you like your new floors? What do you think?
I was truly so happy with how these floors turned out. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Hey guys, it's been just over a month now since we painted our floors. The paint has held up really nicely without any chipping, and overall I'm still very happy with the result. So tell me what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this renovation. If you would like to encourage me to make more videos, please like and subscribe. That will give me the courage I need to get in front of a camera again.